Oh man, you nailed it so much. I'm so happy.
Nice. Oh, man.
I have a new favorite Batman, man. Did you overthink this decision at all? Because 80-year-old character, so many different performances. So how was it for you to accept the role?
When I knew I really, really wanted to do it, and then it's really just the reaction, because also, you know, obviously the world changed so much as it was coming out, and like people just have this very passionate reaction to something, and it kind of goes in waves, sometimes positive, sometimes negative.
Yeah.
And like you work as hard as you can on it. I knew Matt was really great, and I knew the script was great, but you just never really know what the movie's going to be like. I mean, I just saw it for the first time like 3 days ago. And I was thinking,
really?
Oh man, this is actually, this works. And I kind of.
Oh, you're really not as smart as I thought you were, Bruce Wayne.
So Jeffrey, I asked Rob about, you know, having the weight, the responsibility of wearing the cowl, so many different actors and so many years of Batman. And I want to ask you about the responsibility of having the mustache.
The mustache is in some ways Gordon's cowl. It's his,
right.
His mask. It's certainly, you know, become iconic. I'm still wearing it. I've just, you know, I'm hiding it. We very much wanted to create something new, revitalized, but at the same time, we wanted to honor the comics, the comic books themselves. That's where this all springs from. So I thought, you know, there are a few touchstones for me as Gordon that in order to do that, and the mustache was certainly one of them. And it also helps with fans. You can't give them everything, but we're trying to work on a script that's our own, but there's certain things, and perhaps that might have been a little bit of gift to me, to the fans.
For you, Paul, I think it's so intense, this new take on the Riddler being also vigilante. In his mind, he's doing the right thing, exposing the corruption of Gotham. So how was your take on having the touchstones and bringing something new?
Well, I love what you just said, and you can't have Batman without his villains, so to speak, or his rogues gallery, and I couldn't have the Riddler without him, you know? So I really liked how Matt did that, and I thought it was really, really smart. What's potentially, I think, scary about it is the reality that it makes contact with. Yes. So I think you have the bigger elements that you need for this kind of story and this kind of film, and that Batman needs and that Gotham needs. But there's, I think, an extra bit of contact here that makes it all the more scary. So it was really interesting and fun to try to walk that line of carrying both.
I think the scariest touchstones, the ones that touch reality, as you mentioned, right? How did you think people are gonna respond to this?
I'm so excited to share it. I want to see a fan screening. They're so passionate and so excited, and I think there's going to be times where you can just hear a pin drop in a massive movie theater of, you know, and I just, it'll be fun.
Batman fans may be the most passionate fans that I've made a film for, and they're very protective of this series and of these characters. But the thing that they need to realize is that we were equally protective, Matt particularly, equally protective of the tradition and all of these characters. So I think we're gonna meet at good common ground, and I'm just excited, like Paul, to finally get it out there so that their passions can be satisfied.
I've been trying to reach you. Find me, God!
I'm so excited to see you because now I recognize you. You vanished into these characters. Oh my God, what an intense experience.
That's cool, man.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. I mean, John, let me ask you about playing a mob guy, but not getting into all this mob archetypes, you know? Falcone is such a unique character.
Well, there's, you know, everyone's a person. So, you know, I mean, even people who are bad people, or I just thought of him as the person who figures out people's vulnerabilities and then puts that in his pocket and then takes it out when he needs it. There are those kind of people in politics and government, you know, in the world of crime, and then who also present themselves as this generous benefactor, but they're actually, you know, they just want more people to be indebted to them. So,
right.
And there are those kind of animals in the world. They've always existed. and they always will exist, unfortunately.
Right.
So, and then you have to see how everyone else is reacting around you, and that helps create what you do. You know?
Right.
Sometimes you have to do very little.
Think you're gonna scare me with that mask and that cape?
And by the way, Colin, I guess your take on it was, getting loud, as loud as you can. I know Penguin is a scary guy, but also we noticed that it's kind of the humorous character in this movie. I mean, you kind of laugh nervously being around this guy.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, again, broken record, but I just have to keep reiterating how much the work was done for me by Mike Marino, the makeup artist, and his team, I liked what was on the page, but it was when I saw his design that it really brought it all to life in my imagination. When I read the script and the Penguin was referred to the first time, and I got a sense of excitement like a fan. And so I had that excitement as a fan fairly much the whole way through the filming, I found the character quite funny as well. He's quite irreverent, he's very uncouth, and there's a kind of a brashness and a lack of culture. Now, he'd kill you if he heard you say that he had a lack of culture.
Yeah.
But whereas, Carmine is just saturated with refinement and culture and all these things. Even though an animal exists within, Oz wishes he was that, but, just look at his car and his jewelry and you get a sense of who he is. But I'm glad you've found it. There was some comedy in there as well, man.
Take it easy, sweetheart.
I loved so much that we got to see all the traditional things that we expect from Catwoman, being a cat burglar, using the gadgets and being so agile. It's so satisfying that she doesn't have to be like this female counterpart to Batman, right?
I think it's very rare that we get to see the emotional layers of a character like this in films of this size. It was what, made me want to play the role so badly. I think this story is about her trying to liberate herself from a lot of trauma and a lot of anger. I think she's a very good person. I think she's very soft in a lot of ways. And I think, talking to Matt about, okay, why does she have all these cats? What is her connection to these cats? Besides the fact that we know that she's Catwoman, when I read the script, I really wanted to understand the emotional connection. And thinking about the fact that she was abandoned as a child, I really loved this idea of her feeling like a stray and having this compassion for others like her and having this kind of compulsion to save stray cats, stray people. And that's really, I think, a beautiful way to think of, who she is and why she decides to become Catwoman eventually.
What are you hiding? Selena, they'll throw your life away. Don't worry, honey. I got 9 of them.
Are you feeling good that it's out there because your cast said that you worked so hard and so much they were worried about you?
Well, I appreciate that. I love them. I guess I feel nervous because, when there's something you can work on, you can keep refining it and changing it and trying to sort of make it better. And then there's a point at which they kind of take it out of your hands, like, okay, it's done because we need to put it up in the screen.
Right.
So, I'm very proud of the movie. I'm really excited to share it, but there's nothing else I can do anymore except wait.
Yeah,
so of course
sure.
So mourn.
What was your first seed of thought that made this story come alive? Bob Gale said that his seed for Back to the Future was he's imagining if his father and he met in school, would they be friends or not?
Yeah.
How is that for you?
For me, I guess the seed in mind that I had is I knew that I wanted to do not an origin tale, but a story about a case that Batman was on using that focus of the world's greatest detective sort of mode that we'd seen in the comics, but that we hadn't really seen to the degree that I was thinking in the films. And that this story he'd be investigating a series of crimes, a series of murders, and that it would lead him on a description of why this place was so corrupt. And then at an unexpected moment, it would turn the clues and the case would become very personal. And so what went from a case about the city would end up being a case that started sort of reflecting back on him personally, and that it would rock him to his core. That was the initial idea, was like, gosh, can that story somehow be built in such a way that we'll experience that new side of the character that we haven't really seen so much in the movies, and find a way to still make it incredibly personal.
And it is super personal. We're year 2 of Batman, and I love the fact that he's so imperfect. He's just finding himself into all those stories,
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, I did a lot of reading about the psychology of masks and the idea that when you wear a mask, you can kind of lose yourself in the mask.
Right.
You lose this sense of your individuality, and you become very instinctual. And This idea of the Batman sort of being the shadow side of Bruce, and or which side is the shadow side, but this idea of it being very psychological. And in a way, one of the comics in my deep dive that inspired me the most was Ego by Darwin Cook, in which he's kind of grappling with the beast within, right? And the beast is Batman. You know, you always think of Batman as being a superhero, but really this is a guy who is doing what he's doing really because it's the only way he can make sense of his life, because he's gone through something so traumatic that he has to go out there, he's compelled to go out there in this kind of personal way to confront the ghosts of his past time and time again, and to see if he can make it right this time. And of course, he'll never be able to undo what's been done. And I don't think he's as conscious of exactly what's driving him at this point in his career as he will be even by the end of this story.
Did you try different voices, like in the mirror, trying to find a I'm Batman voice?
Yeah. I mean, I tried a million different voices. And, a lot of the people who worked in the costume department worked on a lot of the other Batman. And the initial voice I tried to do, the guy who put me into the suit every day told me that Christian Bale actually tried to do a really similar kind of voice when he first started. And both of us realized, like, you can't, it was a kind of more whispery kind of voice.
Right.
And I think you can see it in the first teaser trailer for Batman Begins.
They told me there was nothing out there. Nothing to fear.
It's funny because I tried to do it as well. We both had the same realization. It's like, he's got to have a deep voice. You can't like...
Right. So this movie shows this world full of a modern type of radicalization, where, you know, it's not just being a psychopath, but you have now an audience. You go to the internet and you broadcast this thing. And I think this is a new take on understanding how Batman can, you know, deal with this stuff. How did you like this about the script and your understanding of the progression of Batman during the script?
He fights crime in a kind of, it's a pretty street level rudimentary way. Like, it's kind of, the criminal's got to be on the ground in front of him for him to even like do anything as Batman. It can't, if you're like on like TikTok, like, you're like kind of, I don't know how much Batman's screaming through his phone. It's funny because they're trying to play a sort of investigative detective in it. It's interesting to kind of try and feel why he has to dress up in the suit if he's just investigating stuff and not trying to scare people. The way I thought it kind of worked is that when he puts on that suit, he gets like a heightened sense of awareness, and he really believes he becomes Batman when he puts it on. It kind of, it allows him to kind of see things clearer and like almost slow down time and stuff. Yeah, sorry, I was not already answering the question, so it's a bit of a tangent.
Did you dig much into the material to fill the gaps? Oh, my time's up, but you know, we want to see more of you, man.
Thanks, man.
Come back, please. Thank you, Rob.
Nice to meet you.
Nice.